My name's Tom King, and I'm the founder of Toolkit.law, and we're here for this 30-minute continuing legal education event on immigration, specifically international organizations and regional organizations. We're joined by Hashim Khan, Yousaf Bangash, Barrister Arooj Bukhari, and Usama will be joining us probably in a minute or so. Let's go ahead and share it on our screen right now. Let's go ahead and do the topics that we're discussing. Who has the green column? Let's start there.
I do.
Great. So can you talk to us about United Nations agencies when it comes to international organizations assisting with immigration?
Certainly, Tom. Thank you for having me. So, for an immigration lawyer, it's important to also know what are certain resources that you can get from charities and international organizations, NGOs, and United Nations name comes to the forefront of that. They've got various limbs. So, you have the UNHCR, which is the UN High Commissioner for Refugees. So, that is the principal organization that you would look to if you needed support for perhaps for your client or to get support for them. If you're dealing with a refugee, an asylum seeker, someone who falls under this umbrella, this would be one organization that can help you. So this also helps with voluntary repatriation and resettlement. So if your client wishes to go back to their country, this organization can help with that, apart from providing legal aid, emergency relief, and shelter. So they are a huge organization that helps with that, and they have a global footprint all over the world. So you would be able to find support. Another organization that you can look to is the IOM, which is the International Organization for Migration. Now, this also provides guidance and advice to individuals, migrants, as well as governments. And you can find their research on migration trends and what causes migration and what support is available for migrants and their allies on their website. And then we have the UNICEF, which I'm sure a lot of people that work in the humanitarian area field of law are aware of. This is the Children's Emergency Fund. So in migrants, when you have children who also migrate, they're essentially particularly vulnerable to challenges and to disease and to mortality. So and malnutrition. So that is a huge concern for children who are refugees, and so this supports children refugees. This also provides migration support. It will provide you with advice also, and healthcare, food, education, other protection of children, safeguarding of children. So UNIFES operates in over, I think, close to 200 countries. So again, this also has a global footprint. Then there's another organization that we can look to, which is another limb of United Nations, which is the Office of UN High Commissioner for Human Rights. Now, this office protects or tries to prevent human rights abuses in any aspect all over the world. So this is not specific to children or adults. This is all people, and this also includes refugees. So it provides humanitarian assistance, and it would also help with monitoring human rights abuses, particularly those related to migration. So when you have abuse of migrants and also trafficking of people, this is an organization that plays a strong role there. Then we would have the UNRWA, which is the United Nations Relief and Works Agency. Excuse me. Now, this agency provides, you can also rely on this agency to provide support for your clients who are refugees or migrants. They can help in the areas of healthcare. They can also help in the areas of education, social services. So they liaison with governments, and they help create an environment that's safe for refugees for the time that they are in a safe country while their claim is processed and until a final decision is made. So you can get help from all these organizations. There are a few more that I'm going to go through. But another thing I would like to point out for the UN Relief and Works Agency is that they also help with displaced population. So when you have internal displacement as well within a country, so maybe one region is facing, it could be a flood. It could be because in Pakistan, that is essentially due to climate change and global warming. We do increasingly face a lot of these issues. We have internal displacement when, because of the melting of the glacier waters up in the north, you get a huge swell of water in our through our basin systems that flood the surrounding areas, because this is not natural, and this was never planned for, and this cannot necessarily, to an extent we can try and protect against it, but this is something that is perhaps cannot be prevented entirely. So because of what has already happened, the level of climate change, we do frequently see these flash floods, unfortunately. So there's internal displacement, and I know that UN, this body of UN, has helped with that, and it offers support. So you get internal refugees, internal migrants, and displaced individuals. This helps with that, and especially for women, the UN Women provides supports to displaced and migrant women and young girls. So, and it also helps to curb gender-based violence. So they have support for that. They also raise awareness. They have advocacy campaigns. They have programs, education programs that also address that. So this is a good organization that you can rely on if your client is a female refugee or a female displaced person or a child. You can rely on them because they also advocate for gender sensitive migration policies. And I think in the day and age that we live in, the migration is not a blanket term, and migration policies should not be blanket either. They should be catered to individuals. And I think that is the sign of a civilized world and, humane world, I suppose. Then we have the.
We have about 90 seconds left. Can you cover these last four
All
bucks?
right. All right, I can do that. Challenge accepted. So we have the United Nations Development Program, which addresses the root causes of migration. Why do people even need to migrate? So that helps with that. If we can control that, we can bring immigration down itself through these positive measures. Then we have the World Food Program, which provides food assistance in refugee camps, which is WFP. Then we have the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, and especially in refugee camps, because there's so much poverty, and also the mental health of the refugees is affected, understandably. Some of them can turn to these problematic ways of coping, and this is an essential that help is sought in that regard as well. And the UN Population Fund pertains to reproductive health services. That's where its main focus is, and you can rely on them for reproductive health care for refugee women and girls. And then finally, we have the United Nations Human Rights Council. This holds states accountable for human rights violations against refugee populations, displaced individuals, any individual. If they are in your sovereign territory, it is a responsibility under the Refugee Convention of States, if they've signed it, to provide them with a dignified stay.
Okay, the next column we're going to do are the regional organizations. Who is handling that column?
I am.
Perfect. Usama, go ahead as I share it on the screen.
Okay. So the first one is European Union. The European Union basically coordinates and makes the rules for the member states. All the Europe is basically, they work together. So they make a set of rules and regulations how to, accommodate the asylum seekers and how the immigrants can get the legal status in the Europe. Then comes the African Union. The AU works to address migration challenges across Africa, through the free movement protocols, and they also control the illegal human trafficking. Then comes the organization
Oh, I think he's locking
to
up.
protect the human rights.
Okay. Go ahead, continue, please.
Okay. So basically, they also control they work on the illegal human trafficking of, smuggling also and abuse during the trafficking. So they're playing a pretty good role in controlling of the illegal trafficking. Then comes the Mercosur Residence Agreement. This agreement allows free movement and resident rights among the member countries of South America, includes Brazil as well. They are also playing a very, very good role to control the illegal trafficking and smuggling of drugs and people across the South America. Then comes the ASEAN, facilitates discussion, migration, labor, mobility, trafficking while promoting cooperation among border and management. They protect all the borders and fencing so that people cannot come freely, the illegal migrants cannot come within the countries. Uh, then comes the ECOWAS, Economic Community of Western African States. They are doing a very, very good work because African states have a very big chaos among them, and they are protecting their borders so the migrants cannot get harmed. Then comes the CARICOM, encourages the mobility of skilled workers and collaborates migration policies across states. So they are working to find the skilled workers basically which are educated and they have set of skills. So they can come into the country to contribute into the economy. So basically to stop the illegal migration. Council of Europe. The main body of Council of Europe is the European Court of Human Rights and the Commissioner for Human Rights. The Court of European, it defends the migrants and refugee, their rights people. The migrants can file their applications to, get this asylum or get their rights. And, when they have a lot of problems like food or shelter, they give their application in the court and the European Council provides them with a provide them with an attorney that is free of cost. That attorney then files their case and gets them all the necessities they need. The knowledge.
Usama, I have one question. When you do immigration hearings, are these agencies ever able to contribute anything that you can use in your immigration hearings? He locked up. Okay, let me ask you this, Yousaf, in case he doesn't come back. Whenever you have these other organizations help you, are there times when they're able to provide evidence that you can use in hearings as you unmute your microphone?
So we have SHARP, which basically pertains to the protection of refugees, and nowadays they are dealing with they are working under the IOM, and they basically protect the refugee status in Pakistan, mainly Afghan people. So yeah, I mean to some extent these are functional in Pakistan, but not all the agency. But as far as the Human Rights Watch is concerned, which is, I mean, a watchdog. So it has some kind of, some kind of work in Pakistan. So they have work over there.
Okay. Let's go ahead and anybody just chip in here. He may join us back as he reconnects. There's the Council on Europe. There's the Nordic Council to facilitate immigration between the 5 countries of Denmark, Finland, Iceland, Norway, and Sweden. I think Usama's joining us back. Okay, so Usama.
I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. We understand. So can you go ahead and pick up on the Council of Europe?
Okay, the Council of Europe. The main body of Council of Europe is the European Court of Human Rights. The asylum seekers file their application in this court and they can get a lawyer which supports and file their cases to get asylum quickly. And through that court, they can also get houses to live in, shelter, to get access to education. They also get food. the Council of Europe is very accommodating in these sense. Then comes the Nordic Council. The Nordic Council consists of one of the best states, which are welfare states of the world, like Denmark and Finland. Nordic Council also, helps refugees to provide them with healthcare, with education, with food, and to, give them a legal status. The Nordic Council basically tells the refugees and immigrants to, get some kind of education, learn the language, and contribute in the economy of these countries. Then comes the Arab League. Okay, in the Arab countries, the workers and immigrants are, suffering a lot. To be honest, uh, the employers uh, blackmail them and do not pay them well, and sometimes they often delay their, pieces. So the Arab League combinedly help these kind of immigrants and workers to get their money and solve their problems. Then comes the SARC. SARC addresses migration and refugees in South Asia, especially around displacement due to conflict, poverty. SARC has countries which have a lot of poverty, lack of health sectors, a lack of education, and they suffer a lot because of very very limited jobs. So the SARC helps them to, they help a lot of people to get quality, health and education and solve their problems.
Okay, great. We're now going to jump to the next column, which is NGO support networks. Who has this column?
I have.
Go ahead, please.
Thank you for your time. NGO support networks. So NGOs are basically independent government organizations, but regulated by the laws of the country in which they are registered. What they usually do is, to borrow the term from Arooj, they help the government in providing social services through their own means and fundraising. In this regard, the first is International Rescue Committee, formed in 1933, headquartered in New York. It has a significant impact in the overall rescue missions of the world. It began its operation in 1980 in Pakistan, and it's still present here in Pakistan as well. So, with the influx of Afghan refugees in 1979, came International Rescue Committee as well. And presently, they are helping people in Balochistan and KPK in services like relief, education, and legal services. Then we have Doctors Without Borders. As the name itself suggests, they provide medical aid to migrants and refugees in conflict zones based in Switzerland. They also have a presence in Pakistan as well, and they helped a lot during the COVID-19 times.
Hey, no,
Then
no.
we have Save the Children.
When you say KPK, everyone else on planet Earth doesn't know what the KPK is, right? I know what it is. It's one of the regions of Pakistan, correct?
Exactly. The province called Khyber Pakhtunkhwa.
I could never say that. I would never be able to pronounce it close to correct.
Yeah,
Everybody just calls it the KPK, but it's beautiful. I know that. It's beautiful. Okay, Doctors Without Borders and
exactly.
Save the Children.
Thank you. Save the Children. So this organization, Save the Children, they help, as the name suggests, children going through the displaced regions, malnutrition, anything else. Since 1979, they have contributed some 9 million US dollars to Pakistan and the children suffering in Pakistan. So they also have a colossal presence in Pakistan as well. All of these organizations. Then we have Jesuit Refugee Services, which works over 50 countries. It's a Catholic organization. It helps in
Right.
psychosocial support and legal assistance to forcibly displaced people. Then we have Refugee International. It's another independent NGO which helps not just in field research, but in displaced people rights as well. It also has some kind of presence in Pakistan, but not that as compared to International Rescue Committee. Then we have Caritas Internationalis, an organization of Italian origin. It's another a Catholic organization promoted to humanitarian aid and migration support. Then we have Hebrew Immigration Aid Society, HIAS. Originally, its focus was Jewish refugees, but with the passage of time, now they help people across the background in resettlements. Then we have World Vision International. It helps migrant children and families because whenever immigration happens, the most affected are women and children, especially the children. Sometimes they are taken away from the parents, or sometimes parents lose them in the process of migration. So the children are always vulnerable, and this organization and all these organizations are very pivotal in this regard. Then we have Care International. Now they support migrants and refugees with emergency relief, gender-based violence. In any immigration setup or in any camps, there's also and always a threat of gender-based violence because of the vulnerability of women present over there. So these kind of organizations, they help ensure that these kind of violence never erupts, and they also provide field research. As you said, the questions earlier, the field research conducted by them and reports made by them are often helpful for tribunals or for governments as well. Next, we have Norwegian Refugee Council, working in over 30 countries, providing legal assistance, shelter and education. Mercy Corps, it also helps in conflict and crisis regions, but its specific focus is the rebuilding of refugees as well. Some organizations help and support the consistency or how to maintain the refugees. So they help in how to rebuild their lives, providing them opportunities, especially those coming from climate-related displacement. And then we have International Medical Corps, another healthcare organizations like Doctors Without Borders. They have medical units and they help they have medical units and they help those people who are in conflict-driven zones suffering from medical issues because wherever there is a camps or any kind of things in immigration, there are chances of diseases. So these organizations, along with International Medical Corps, they help to make sure that those environments are disease-free.
Great. Let's
Thank
move
you.
to our last column. Yousaf, is it you, I believe?
Yes, it's
Go
me.
ahead, please. So legal
Okay,
advocacy
okay,
and
okay.
monitoring bodies.
Okay. So since I'm under intense scrutiny since the day, because our international law teacher, Barrister Arooj Bukhari, she has drilled all these, bodies into our mind. So we have already studied all of it line by line. So let's start with these global guardians, these organizations that have stood up even often in the darkest hours, and they basically defend the rights of migrants and even refugees, also the stateless individuals. So start with the IDC. It wouldn't be incorrect to say that IDC is like a conscience of the detention system, and it has very clear mission. It has a mission to end the immigration detention of children and vulnerable people. And it basically operates globally. So it has threefold function. It researching, lobbying, and even proposing community-based alternatives. So then we have this another organization or a body, Human Rights Watch at HRW. Now, HRW is like a global watchdog, and that watchdog has a very loud megaphone since 1970s. So they have documented abuses, including the unlawful deportation and horrific detention condition. And the HRW reports, uh, I believe, they often make it to the floor of parliaments. And it even becomes the headlines of newspapers sometimes. So their job is commendable. Then we have Amnesty International.
Very well.
Amnesty International is one of the boldest voice. It is one of the boldest voice in the history, I believe, because it has been a very, very relentless campaigner against the border violence and the arbitrary detention. So their job is also commendable. Then we have International Commission of
Hold
Jurists.
on.
Now,
Hold on. Yousaf. The one
say,
thing I think about is in different countries, we will have different opinions of different organizations, right?
exactly,
Right. And so, depending on your country's perspective, see, right now, NGOs are not very popular in the United States because they're
exactly.
seen sometimes as organizations that are taken over by a political agenda, for instance,
Hmm.
to smuggle people into a country or to not. I love what you said in our other presentation about how important it is to be credible and to be accurate and not to exaggerate facts. And so when I think of Amnesty International, I have many positive thoughts, but I also have some negative thoughts, right? Because some of the positions they may take contrary to a country's government policies. And I'm just curious. Well, I just, when I think of different organizations, I'm thinking how you think of an organization versus another country and how our perspectives might be different, right? Doctors Without Borders. Everybody's going to love Doctors Without Borders, right? Yeah. How are you going to argue against that? Or
No,
the Mercy? Go ahead.
they have contributed theoretically. I mean, they are not on field, right? They just, work on the research side, or sometimes, the legal research, or the sometimes mobilizing the global action of the government, which fail to act humanly. And you are right. I mean, there are certain things which is subject to the criticism. So I mean, it is debatable, and I feel we will go into another dimension to discuss whether
Yeah, yeah.
these Amnesty International is practical in Pakistan or not. I mean, in Pakistan, things are very, very complicated, and I will not go into the
Yes, they are. Yes,
difficult
yes.
discussion. Yes,
I mean, first of all, you start out with five different languages that people speak, and then you take it from
exactly,
there, right? Urdu,
exactly,
Pashto, Punjabi, and then now I understand
exactly.
Urdu. Yeah, Urdu and
We
Hindu,
are
Hindi are close to
multicultural.
it. Oh, you
Exactly.
are.
We are multicultural, multilinguistic, and even multi-ethnic society. So it is, very sometimes hard to study Pakistan. I mean, if you have any interest to study Pakistan, so you can read Pakistan, a Hard Country, and it includes different facts related to the Pakistan. So things are very subjective when it comes to Pakistan, especially very subjective.
Oh, by the way, I toured your national monument, the outdoor monument, which is just beautiful. In your national museum, I didn't know
Yes.
anything. I did not know anything about Pakistan except when it started in 1947 and some of the history there. And so when
Mm.
I think, how important it is not only to research the organizations, but how those countries may perceive those
Exactly.
organizations and if they're helpful or hurtful to whatever your goals are. I don't know.
Exactly.
I'm going to go ahead and share the screen. Yeah, you're right. I digress, but we need to keep continuing legal education exciting. Okay,
Exactly.
let's keep it going.
Okay. So then comes the International Commission of Jurists. It's a human rights, it's a legal brain behind the human rights movement, right? And it basically ensures that, national and international laws align with the fundamental rights. They sometimes, monitor your judicial system. They sometimes give you a model legislation drafts, and sometimes it also holds the states accountable for the breaches in migrant protection. But since we are not even a signatory to the refugee convention, so we do not have these kind of examples in Pakistan. Then we have this global detention project, which is basically based on the Geneva, and it's a research center. It tracks the immigration detention and facility worldwide. The Asylum Access, again, this organization, work for the refugee hosting countries, and they offer, provide legal aid and policy advocacy as well. Then the International Justice Resource Center, IGRC. So I mean, there are human rights lawyer and advocate over there, and they have their own, toolbox, and it connects to the displaced individuals and defender to the machinery of international law. The ECRE, it's a Council on Refugee, European Council on Refugee. So it's not just one group. I mean, there are, I think, alliance of 100 NGOs across Europe, and then that they are united to make asylum system fair, right? And it, like, founded after the final fall of Iron Curtain, or maybe something like that. So I mean, it has played a major role in the shaping the EU asylum laws. Then we have CMS. CMS is, it's just based on this Catholic tradition, and they are also into research of the migration patterns and social integration, things like that. Then we have the MRI, that is the Migrant Rights International, and they, they have a loudspeaker on the global stage as well, because they works to ensure that labor migrants are not invisible. So they focus on the forced labor. They even focus on the human cost of temporary work programs and stuff like that. That is basically a bit socialist and a bit Marxist in nature. So then we have a European country of human rights. It's the quote of that basically bites, because when states violate refugee rights through different arbitrary detention or inhuman deportation, so this institution or this organization court or take steps, and sometimes its judgments have shaped the asylum protection even across the Europe. We have also the IBAHRI, that is International Bar Association Human Rights Institution. So they are basically the legal defenders, and they basically train lawyers. They are the proponent of the fair trials, and they also work globally. In a nutshell, I mean, these institutions basically work or remind us that the justice remain borderless, and these organizations are not just advocates. They are basically the architect of a more accountable and right-based global migration system.
So that's the second epiphany you've said, that justice is borderless. And I loved how you said in our other presentation that that oral testimony is the soul of a case. I loved those two perspectives. So that concludes this session on international organizations when it comes to immigration. And it just reminds me that I didn't recognize 90% of these organizations. And hopefully this help sheet and this presentation will serve as a good starter for whoever is doing research and attempting to utilize these organizations. That concludes this presentation.